Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Ottawa County Board of Commissioners meeting for Tuesday, June the 28th at 1:30 p.m. Mr. Clerk, would you call the meeting to order?
Yes, sir. Mr. Garcia, here. Mr. Baumann.
Here.
Mr. Zylstra.
Here.
Mr. Dannenberg.
Here.
Mr. Meppelin.
Here.
Mr. Terpstra. Mr. Holfleur.
Present.
Mr. DeYoung.
Here.
Mr. Kyers.
Here.
Mr. Bergman.
Here.
And Mr. Fenske.
Here.
Mr. Chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you, sir. Today's invocation, Ottawa County seeks to be a welcoming place where you belong. Recognizing that we are a county of many different faiths and traditions, our invocation today is offered from one of the perspectives. I will now ask Commissioner Dannenberg to introduce today's invocation guest.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to introduce my friend, cousin, Pastor Mark Timmer from the Third Christian Reformed Church. During the invocation, please remain seated and please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. So, thank you, Mark.
Thank you. The Bible talks about government as usual, and it surprises us, huh? Maybe I'm the only one surprised, but I'm at least going to share my surprise today about something what it says. Romans 13 is one of those sections where it talks about governing. And it tells us there that God establishes the authority of government and God puts those people in place. That, of course, has the potential to make good citizens out of those who honor the Bible's teaching. Verse 4 of Romans 13 says, "The one in authority is God's servant for your good." The one in authority is God's servant for your good. The rather surprising thing to me, at least, is the term that gets used here for servant and for those that are in authority, those that govern. The word that we translate as servant is actually the term the New Testament might use as waiter, a household servant who would attend to the people at tables. Now we know that deacon, that's the word, it is the transliteration of it. Deacons are in the Catholic Church, the Protestant Church, Orthodox churches, all sorts of churches have deacons. But a deacon is someone who serves or helps the people on behalf of God. They do hands-on ministry. And the Apostle Paul today would say that you as county commissioners are deacons. You're deacons. You do the work of God. You do hands-on work to help people. Now, the good news of that is that that means that this is something that God is in. He cares deeply about it. He's arranged for it. He's invested in it. He carries out his purposes through it. And so he has resources for it and desires for it as well. It also means that you as deacons can have confidence that God can be called on for this work that you do on his behalf. We can ask him for things for this work and also for you, the ones who do this sort of deacon work. So let's do that now. Let's pray. Almighty God, Redeemer, you made the world and are remaking it. You bring shalom or a marvelous harmony out of the chaos to which we are so prone. You've made government and it exists to carry out your purposes. You put people in place. Thank you. Thank you for doing these things for us. I give you thanks today for these commissioners, these deacons of yours, ones who are willing to serve Ottawa County at this time. We know that it's not by chance that you have them here and serving in this way. Thank you for the time and energy that they pour out. It's never been easy to govern well, but we know in these last few years, governing has become even more challenging. We've seen deep divisions in our world and nation and state and county and communities and workplaces and churches and schools and families. It's not easy for people to listen to one another. We're prone to see enemies much more quickly than to see allies. The spirit of the age is to want to conquer and destroy, not to solve and bridge. And often that means that what is good and right and true suffers greatly. Give these commissioners strength and calm and wisdom and patience and every virtue for this work. To govern is different than to campaign. Use their efforts. Cause them to serve well. And when their time of serving in these roles is completed, give them grace for their next assignments as well. We pray for the county and its people too. Thanks for a county that has abundant resources and where many things go well. Thanks for parks and beauty and infrastructure and industry and business and farms and organizations and agencies and schools and medical services and jobs and a strong work ethic and worshiping communities. Bless the many who serve this county. Protect them, especially our first responders. Give them joy and diligence and effectiveness in their serving. Shower your goodness upon the citizens of Ottawa County. Help them to be caring, law-abiding, hardworking, and healthy in body and mind and spirit. Knit communities together with people who are willing to notice and help others. Help the vulnerable among us. We know that there are many poor among us and others who are suffering in a variety of ways. Protect children. Bring help and hope to those who need it. Heal our divisions, we ask, and hinder the plans of those who want to do evil. Thanks that you can be trusted. Thanks that Jesus is the proof by his coming and by his soon coming again. Hear us in his name. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor Mark.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Clerk, do we have any presentations, petitions, communications?
None from us, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. At this time, we have a presentation. Dr. Jesse Burnell is Chief of Staff to the President and Vice President at Grand Valley State University. Dr. Burnell, would you please be able to give us a little brief description of what you do for Grand Valley and then present your presentation?
Sure. Thank you, Chair Fenske, and thank you, commissioners, for having me here today. So my name is Jesse Bernal. I've been at Grand Valley since 2015. I serve as President Mantella's Chief of Staff and also Vice President for Inclusion and Equity. Moved here from California in February of 2015, which was a little cold. Gotten used to it and have fallen in love with West Michigan. And I'm really honored to work in Ottawa County. As part of the work that I do for Grand Valley, I get to do a lot of work in the community, both here in Ottawa County and Kent County and across the state. So I'm really grateful to have met many of you and worked with many of you and many organizations in Ottawa County. And I'm really honored to be able to share a little bit about Grand Valley's recent progress around our strategic planning and our community engagement plans, but also some of our shared commitments around diversity, equity, and inclusion that are really important to Grand Valley and that we know are important to Ottawa County. And I hope you'll hear through the presentation that I'll give today, the university's gratefulness to this commission and this county administration for your concerted efforts to create a welcoming and inclusive Ottawa County for all of our residents, our employees, and our visitors, and how our shared interests to continue to build on the foundation that we've created together is really vital to the university's success. And so we hope you hear that today. And President Mantella is grateful for the continued conversations many of you have had with her. Just recently this year, Grand Valley's faculty, staff, and students and our board of trustees fully endorsed what you see here. It's our new strategic direction. We're calling it Reach Higher 2025. Everything in universities has to be branded. And so that's what we're branding this. These are our goals through 2025 for our university, but also for our community and all of those we impact. We've adopted new mission and vision statements, which are on the slide. In addition, we made, and this is where I'll focus a lot of the time, 3 commitments to our learners and to our community, including to our partners in Ottawa County, which we describe as simple but really profound. The first is an empowered educational experience. And what we mean by that is that we want to center students and youth in everything that we do, that we are all, even our faculty and staff and our faculty who may think that they know everything, that they're also lifetime learners. We're all learning together. We're learning from our students. We're learning from our community. And we also want to empower our students with agency and to drive their own success, knowing that they bring lots to our university, even if they may not be experienced as the professionals there. We're also committed to a lifetime of learning. We want folks to continue to come back to Grand Valley after they graduate. We've invested in a lifetime learning account where every graduate gets funding to come back for postgraduate education or badging or other skills that they might need throughout their lifetime, but also thinking about our education differently and how we serve the growing population of adults who have some college but have not completed those college programs. So how do we offer flexibility to make sure that we're supporting individuals with families and who are working in careers? And then finally, and this is an area I lead for the university, we're committed to building a culture of educational equity, where we center equity and inclusion to create a more diverse learning environment and to also impact our external community in important ways. Digging in deeper to that a little bit. So as we build this culture of equity, we're really focused in 3 key areas. And this is where we need partners across Michigan and in Ottawa County and West Michigan. We are focused on attracting and retaining a diverse student body and employees. We want to ensure that all of our faculty, staff, and employees who come to our university can thrive and can be successful. So thinking about how we remove barriers that inhibit that success. And then we also, again, want to increase flexibility and options to serve more learners, bring more people to West Michigan, bring more people to Ottawa County. This may include things like extending our summer term, so we have more students here during the summer who will certainly be engaging with folks in Ottawa County and businesses and apartments in Ottawa County, but also offering more on-demand opportunities for individuals as they think about enhancing their skills in their current employment. We're also focused on continuing to attract our traditional freshman population. We've been fortunate that we've maintained relatively steady freshman enrollment even through the pandemic, where other institutions have not. Students in Michigan are attracted to West Michigan, and we want to make sure that we continue that deep attraction that we're finding with our students. But also, again, providing more options for adult learners and meeting them where they're at and what they might need. We've established some really innovative and first-time programs in West Michigan. They're partnerships with historically Black colleges and universities and Hispanic serving institutions from across the country to attract new talent and new students to West Michigan and to Ottawa County. We've signed 6 articulation agreements with these programs where they begin their education at these schools and complete their education at Grand Valley, and in particular, graduate education at Grand Valley. And we're finding that about 85% of these students are staying in West Michigan, which is really important to building the talent pipeline here. So importantly, all of these are interconnected, but they are also ways in which our students and our employees seek to impact the community and seek to impact the society. And of course, Ottawa County is central to our engagement in that area. So why do we care about diversity and inclusion in higher education, Grand Valley specifically, but higher education more generally? And a lot of this is in academic research. I teach this in the College of Education, but academic and business research have long studied the impact of diverse perspectives on the outcomes of an enterprise, either businesses or nonprofits. And there's a strong correlation between diverse perspectives and individuals who come from diverse backgrounds, in particular race and ethnicity and gender. We call this the educational benefits for all research in higher education. It was developed in the 1990s, and it found that institutions, universities who enrolled racial and ethnic minorities that most closely resembled their external communities saw greater positive outcomes, both academically and socially, for all students. So that is that as racial and ethnic diversity increased at the universities, all students, including white students, improved their critical thinking skills, were more likely to participate in what we call high impact practices, so internships, going abroad to study, volunteering in their communities, joining civic organizations, and even voting. We saw individuals were more likely to vote when they attended schools that were more diverse. Again, this was for all students, not just students of color. And so that was an important part of our commitment to creating a more diverse student body, because that impacts the learning of every student that we enroll. And importantly, we also see a connection between student diversity, which again has its benefits for all students, and the diversity of our employees. So attracting diverse talent to our university is really key to that strategy. And then second, the purpose of education, one of the purposes of education, at least at Grand Valley, many institutions believe, is that we have to provide skills and tools that our learners need to navigate their worlds effectively once they leave our institution. And many believe that we no longer, maybe never did operate in a homogeneous society where we were always diverse and always different, whether ideologically or in our backgrounds, that our local contexts, because of technology, are growing more and more interconnected and diverse. And we're increasingly tied to individuals and groups around the world who are different from us. And so as an institution, we think we have a responsibility to ensure our graduates leave our institutions being able to effectively navigate a dynamic, changing world where they will interact with people who are different than them. And many of us finally believe that we do this work because there's a moral imperative to ensure that all of our children have access to an affordable and quality education. They're able to contribute to our economies, our societies, and our communities, and they are able to support themselves and the families that they're hoping to raise. And really, I think important to the work and hope that we have in partnership with Ottawa County and our partners in Ottawa County is, and this is probably most important, is the role that maybe many of you might be able to play with us on the commission, is the economic imperative we all face that's been exacerbated by the pandemic. And you'll see that through some of the data that I'll share briefly. It's something referred to as the business case or corporate case for diversity. It's based on survey research of industry and corporate leaders across fields who indicate that they're relying on employees who can operate in a diverse environment and diverse teams with people who are different with them, with people who may disagree with them. So in addition to the knowledge that we provide in technical education or college curriculum, employers want employees who can work together across cultures, across difference, with people who have different perspectives. And we find through the research that these employees are more productive, they miss less work, they impact the enterprise's bottom line and all overall outcomes, both in economic terms as well as socialization terms in positive ways. And we know we have a need for talent right here in Michigan and in Ottawa County, particularly as we come out of the pandemic. What you see here is data that was shared last month that found that 6 occupations that grew the most during the last 2.5 years are those that most likely require some post-secondary credential. So science, technology, health, mental health, public health, and online commercial economy. Think about Amazon. My dog has become friends with the Amazon guy that delivers probably every day to our house, maybe y'all's too. And those that declined are in travel and hospitality. Many of these occupations are seeing the impact of automation that is taking away jobs from those who have formerly been held by people. We've seen an acceleration of over 400% since the start of the pandemic in automation-related jobs. And the number of jobs that have been taken over by automation has increased on an annual basis 400% since 2019. And while jobs are requiring more college credentials, we're seeing a decline in enrollment nationally in college enrollment. Grand Valley, again, our enrollment has remained relatively steady through the pandemic because we're offering more non-traditional pathways and credentials other than the traditional bachelor's degree. Just as significant, we also know that 50% of the current workforce currently or will soon require skills just to maintain their current jobs. And again, there's the impact of automation that's impacting many occupations. So we have a talent need and the face of the talent is exponentially changing and becoming more diverse. So we have an opportunity also. Almost 40 million Americans have attended college but have not graduated. So they have no post-secondary education. We call those students some college but no degree. So how do we reach these folks and who are these folks? Many of them and our future talent come from diverse backgrounds. By 2045, we'll see a 130% increase in the Latino Black population across the country and a 45% increase in the Black population. Currently, over 40% of our current students in higher education are 25 years or older, and over half are either students of color or come from low-income backgrounds. Our current landscape is quite diverse, and the future of our learners, and therefore our talent, will also be diverse. So just briefly, a little bit of the 2 statistics from Grand Valley. Here you see the racial and ethnic diversity, racial and ethnic minorities in 4 key areas. You see the US, Ottawa County, Michigan, and Grand Valley. Grand Valley is more diverse than the state. within Ottawa County, but not as diverse in the state. You also see the future student body. Last year, we enrolled 21% students of color in our freshman class. We're projecting to enroll 24% of students of color in this upcoming year's freshman class. So diversity is coming to Grand Valley because students are attracted to this location and what we offer. And that's the future talent of West Michigan as we continue to graduate these students. Here is one statistic. We conduct what we call campus climate assessments. And this is just one indicator. We ask people about their experiences and perceptions with a campus. Here are what individuals based on race and ethnicity have said that they have experienced discrimination or harassment within the past year of conducting the survey. You see overall 19% of our faculty, staff, and students indicated that they had. This wasn't necessarily based on race or ethnicity, it was any characteristic or even perceived characteristic. But you see the jump by our Black faculty, staff, and students, where 40% of those individuals indicate that they had experienced the same, and 22% of Hispanic and Latinos. We also ask a lot of questions about what was the source or where did this experience happen? And what you see here is that 25% of those individuals say that it happened in the external community, or was the source was somebody who was a member of the external community. So because of that, we are really being thoughtful about the impact of campus climate and how it relates to the external community. And the reason we care about it is simple. I'll just simplify this graph for the sake of time. Research and data tell us that healthy experiences, so not experiencing discrimination and harassment, and positive perception, so not even perceiving that you've experienced those, which is equally powerful, lead to success. And for us, that means for students, graduation and persistence, and for employees that we're able to recruit and keep them. And that's impacted by the external environment, importantly. We know that about campus climate, and that's why we need our community stakeholders and leaders as partners. Our students live off campus, are in rental homes. Many of our employees live in Ottawa County and send their kids to school here. We all shop. I eat here a lot in restaurants in Ottawa County. Many of us go to church here. I go to church here in Allendale. We understand that just as our students and employees impact Ottawa County impacts our students and employees. So our external relations and surrounding community have an impact on campus climate, which in turn impacts our ability to recruit and retain talent, which we all need. And we know the greatest impact of this is on our diverse communities. So just in closing, I would say, just really reiterate my gratefulness, the gratefulness of President Mantella and the university to this commission and the county administration for really being a leader in advancing DEI in your work. Just as Grand Valley was one of the first institutions in the country to create my office and my position, Ottawa County has been at the forefront of county governments to create the Office for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. The university truly believes the work, the office does work that is aligned with the community's commitment. And the commitment of this commission to do its work is really noteworthy, and we are grateful for that continued commitment, as well as your own commitment to DEI as an important attraction to the students and talent we are trying to recruit is really essential in our partnership for helping us retain all those who contribute to our community and our economy. So thank you for being a model. And I know I speak for President Mantella when I say I hope we can continue to deepen our partnership, not only in this space, but in many spaces as we particularly get back to interacting post-COVID. I know President Mantella hasn't been able to engage much with the commission, but she's hoping to be able to do so really soon. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Very, very interesting. Commissioners, any questions for Dr. Burnell?
Yeah, good question. Jesse, I mentioned that this is a line that most universities are also trying to incorporate when it comes to equity, inclusion, and diversity, and recruiting and retaining their staff and students.
Yeah, the data is showing that most institutions now have a strategic priority for diversity, equity, and inclusion, because that's what our students expect. They're coming telling us that they expect an environment where they can feel welcomed, where they can learn more about other people, where they can learn more about culture, and where they can engage in the external community in meaningful ways. So in order for us to be responsive to the customer's need, which is our student, we have to respond in this way. And for most of our institutions, it's core to our values as well.
Would that be true also for private institutions or colleges?
Yeah, many private institutions are adopting the same, even religiously affiliated universities. I work for Santa Clara University, a Catholic school in California for a long time. We've adopted the same principle that we are striving to create a diverse and equitable institution. While mission-driven institutions may have different perspectives on different kinds of diversity, Grand Valley has a broad definition of diversity. Certainly all have moved into that direction and thinking that diverse perspectives, diverse ideologies, diverse backgrounds is important for the development of our students because we see the positive academic outcomes that they engender.
Thank you.
Any other questions, gentlemen? Thank you very much for coming. Very interesting, and certainly we're very proud of our DE&I office and what we're doing here and making sure that it's open to everyone with our motto, where you belong. So it's important to us.
Great. Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you. Next is my board comments for June the 28th. The Ottawa County Conservation District is looking for volunteers for their beach cleanup on Harbor Island. It will be held on July the 12th at 9 a.m., so please consider volunteering. Last week, we held our annual county strategic planning workshop at the Weaver House in Olive Township. Commissioners and department heads gathered for several hours to set our priorities and goals for the year 2023. The engagement of our department heads this year provided rich conversation, identifying strengths, weaknesses, opportunities to really drive our priorities for next year. And finally, on behalf of the Ottawa County Commissioners, I would like to wish all our county residents a safe holiday and to celebrate our country's freedoms and independence for all. Take time to enjoy your family and your friends. Next is our first opportunity for public comment. So if there's someone in the audience that would like to address the board, or do we have someone on?
Yeah, the first individual is Barbara Van Horsen from Grand Haven City.
Welcome, Barbara.
Thank you. Thank you. Always an honor to address this panel. In addition to being a resident of Ottawa County, you know me as the experimenter at the Momentum Center, a grassroots movement to create a stigma-free community and a nonprofit charitable organization that is improving the mental health of the people in our community. I'm here today with gratitude that you are moving forward with a plan for distributing American Rescue Plan Act money, ARPA funds. My agency and many other nonprofits in this community that serve a host of needs have been anxiously waiting to understand how that money will be distributed and how we might engage in a collaborative process to identify and address our county's specific needs. One of the critical areas of need around COVID-19 is the mental health crisis that's affecting both our adults and our children. The need is clear. Before COVID, we already knew that 1 in 4 people would struggle with a significant mental illness during their lifetime. We knew that 17% of adults in Ottawa County reported depression and 15% reported an anxiety disorder. COVID has made those numbers worse. The Kaiser Family Fund reports that since the epidemic, the number of adults reporting depression and anxiety has quadrupled from 1 in 10 to 4 in 10. A full 56% of young adults aged 18 to 24 now report symptoms of depression and anxiety. That age group has also seen substance abuse rise from 13% to 25%, and suicidal thoughts increase from 11% to 26%. Our own most recent youth assessment survey found that 1 in 3 kids now report feelings of depression. In a classroom of 30 students, 5 of those students have seriously considered suicide, and 2 or 3 have made an attempt. We are in a mental health crisis, and there is funding that can begin to help address that need. In your own recovery plan, you talk about Ottawa County's aim to maintain contact with county residents and leaders for the duration of the allocation period in order to remain up to date with the needs and wants of the community in response to the COVID-19 pandemic and its negative impacts. Mental health has been significantly impacted by COVID-19. I urge you, the ARPA committee, and the soon-to-be named ARPA bucket manager for social and human services to prioritize mental illness as a crucial human need and to provide those of us working in this area access to those funds. Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you, Barbara. Anyone else?
Oh, sorry, no one on our
Nope.
list, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Apologize.
There'll be a second opportunity for public comment later in our meeting. So at this time, we'll entertain a motion for approval of our agenda.
So moved.
Support.
Is there any further discussion? Will you call the roll, please?
Mr. Garcia,
Yes.
Mr. Bergman,
Yes.
Mr. Zylstra,
Yes.
Mr. Dannenberg,
Yes.
Mr. Meppelin,
Yes.
Mr. Holtvluwer,
Yes.
Mr. Baumann,
Yes.
Mr. Kyers,
Yes.
Mr. DeYoung,
Yes.
and Mr. Fenske.
Yes,
Motion passes.
thank you. Next is our actions and reports, and in particular, a consent resolution. Commissioner Dannenberg.
Thank you, Chairman Fenske. I'd like to make a motion to approve consent resolutions 1 through 2.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, will you call the roll, please?
Mr. Kyers,
Yes.
Mr. Holtvluwer,
Yes.
Mr. Garcia,
Yes.
Mr. Dannenberg,
Yes.
Mr. DeYoung,
Yes.
Mr. Zylstra,
Yes.
Mr. Meppelin,
Yes.
Mr. Baumann,
Yes.
Mr. Bergman,
Yes.
and Mr. Fenske.
Yes,
Motion passes.
we have no public hearings today. Under action items from Planning and Policy Committee, Commissioner DeYoung.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Regarding the itemized Explorers Trail Bass River Connector Trail Easement, I move to approve and authorize the board chairperson and the clerk register to sign the easement with the Ottawa County Road Commissioner for the item Explorers Trail Bass River segment route at the purchase price of $5,000.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, will you call the roll, please?
Mr. Dannenberg,
Yes.
Mr. Baumann,
Yes.
Mr. Bergman,
Yes.
Mr. Meppelin,
Yes.
Mr. Garcia,
Yes.
Mr. DeYoung,
Yes.
Mr. Holtvluwer,
Yes.
Mr. Zylstra,
Yes.
Mr. Kyers,
Yes.
and Mr. Fenske.
Yes,
Motion passes.
thank you. From the Finance and Administration Committee, Commissioner Baumann.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In regards to the 2022 summer apportionment report, I make a motion to approve and authorize the board chairperson and clerk register to sign the 2022 summer apportionment report.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Gentlemen, any questions? Seeing none, will you call the roll, please?
Mr. Kyers,
Yes.
Mr. Holtvluwer,
Yes.
Mr. Meppelin,
Yes.
Mr. Garcia,
Yes.
Mr. Zylstra,
Yes.
Mr. Bergman,
Yes.
Mr. Dannenberg,
Yes.
Mr. DeYoung,
Yes.
Mr. Baumann,
Yes.
and Mr. Fenske.
Yes,
The motion passes.
Regarding the assessing services for the city of Coopersville, I make a motion to approve and authorize the board chairperson and clerk register to sign the contract to provide assessing services for the city of Coopersville.
Second.
we have a motion and a second. Is this very similar to what we're doing with other municipalities?
Yep, Coopersville's assessor is retiring, I think at the end of this week. So this is a 3-year contract. We'll receive $129,100 over that 3-year contract to provide those assessing services. So this is really the same contract you've seen with other local units. And we try to not profit on this, but not lose money on this. So this is our best estimate as to what it will cost to provide those services, and we'll receive a similar amount of revenue.
How many relationships do we have
We've got this, Blending, Crockery, Grand Haven, and Hudsonville,
This will make the fifth.
fifth one.
The fifth one.
The beauty of this is that in most cases, it saves the municipality
Mhm.
dollars. And often a lot of dollars.
And again, we make that service available to them, and if they want to, I know, like, Brian will correct me, I think it was Zealand Township had recently inquired about it, and they ended up hiring another assessor. I think it was the township, not the city, but, and if that's the case, that's fine, but we do make the service available.
Yeah, in the case of Zealand Township, our number was very similar to the number that they were presented from another company, and they simply opted to go with the other company, which we are fine with.
At some point, are we, need to beef up staff if we have too many
Well,
more?
Just as you,
Our next one.
when you start to look at the next couple
Yeah.
agenda items, that will address that issue.
You might want to stay. All right, we have a motion and a second on the table. If there's no further questions, will you call the roll, please?
Sir, Mr. Bergman,
Yes.
Mr. Zylstra,
Yes.
Mr. Kyers,
Yes.
Mr. Garcia,
Yes.
Mr. Holtvluwer,
Yes.
Mr. Baumann,
Yes.
Mr. DeYoung,
Yes.
Mr. Meppelink,
Yes.
Mr. Dannenberg,
Yes.
and Mr. Fenske.
Yes.
Motion passes.
In regards to the equalization personnel request, I make a motion to approve a proposal to upgrade one assistant assessing manager position, a one full-time equivalent pay grade 10, to an assessing manager position, one full-time equivalent pay grade 11, to increase the full-time equivalent of a abstracting index clerk role from 0.75 full-time equivalent to 0.80 full-time equivalent, and to add a part-time, non-benefited appraiser 2 position working no more than 600 total hours per year at a total cost of $25,900 per year, paid for by a contract with the city of Coopersville.
Second.
Any questions?
Okay. Are these positions filled already, or will, when this dust settles, will we be an opening somewhere?
Well, we're looking at the, and Brian can speak in more details, but on the second assessing manager position, we're looking to most likely fill that from within.
Okay,
And I think the abstract index clerk is the same person, but just increasing the hours. And then I don't know if we hire the part-time.
So we will, once the dust settles out of this, we will have 2 assessing division managers, one that was filled from within, and we just filled that one, I think, last week. And then we'll be posting the next position coming up. Whether that ends up being an internal promotion is yet to be seen. We're going to be advertising the position broadly, and we'll make the decision based on who applies.
So there is a process of backfilling.
Yes.
Yeah, so the former assessing manager was promoted to deputy equalization director. And then we promoted someone to fill the assessing manager position. The second one we're going to be posting.
and some of them all have to have what I call degrees behind their name to be able to do the job. Am I correct on that?
Correct. It's more of a certification with the
Okay.
state. Yeah, anything with assessing requires a certification level. As the director on your behalf, I will actually be signing the assessment rolls, but everybody in that division, we require them to be certified at A level. As assessing division managers, I think they have to be what used to be called a level 3. Now it's called an advanced level certification.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? Seeing none, will you call the roll, please?
Yes, sir. Mr. Zylstra,
Yes.
Mr. Bergman,
Yes.
Mr. Baumann,
Yes.
Mr. Kyers,
Yes.
Mr. Garcia,
Yes.
Mr. Meppelink,
Yes.
Mr. Dannenberg,
Yes.
Mr. DeYoung,
Yes.
Mr. Holtvluwer,
Yes.
and Mr. Fenske.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Regarding the Public Defender's Office personnel request, I make a motion to approve the request from the Public Defender's Office to downgrade one first assistant public defender position to an assistant public defender 3, upgrade one assistant public defender 1 to a assistant public defender 2, and to increase the pay grade for the first assistant public defender at a total cost of $4,452.90.
Second.
It's a lot of moving parts there.
Yeah.
Would you like to
Yeah.
run that through us? a little
Sure, I'll
bit?
be happy to.
Thank you.
Essentially, what we're trying to capture here is the ability to best serve our clients in the trial division and create court service teams and kind of streamline our administrative operations. With the retirement of Bob Hamilton, I stepped into his role, and I do not take as many serious felonies or capital cases any longer and focus primarily on administration. So we need additional personnel to help us with trial work rather than the administrative side of things. Thankfully, I think both pandemic-wise and being a new department, we're moving out of survival mode, which is really exciting. So we want to create a more sustainable model for our office, provide service teams with a variety of levels of talent in each court to handle misdemeanors, felonies, and then the capital cases, life offenses for each geographic court location as well to help optimize our operations. So essentially what we're doing is getting rid of the position I formerly held. My colleague Phil Silsky will serve as first assistant or chief public defender. And he and I can tackle the administrative tasks of our department and allow us to have better service for our clients.
Yeah, I wonder if you could give me a quick lesson between the roles and responsibilities of level 1, level 2, and level 3.
Sure, I'd be happy to. So we have assistant public defenders who are level 1. Those are more entry level, typically have been practicing law for 5 years or less, and they handle primarily misdemeanors. They are required to go to trial college as well and do a little bit more training. And so they are in all of our district courts throughout the county. Our APD 2s handle some misdemeanors, but step up into more felony work throughout the county as well. And so they are handling things with more like 10 to 40-year maximum possible penalties. And then our APD 3s and myself and Phil Silsky handle capital cases and very significant felonies. So things with a possible life offense penalty are handled by our most senior trial attorneys.
Okay, thank you.
Does, to hire them, are you having a problem filling any of these positions?
Thankfully, no. We've seen a difference in the number of applicants when we've had available positions. However, we have not seen a dilution in the quality of talent we've been able to attract. By making these changes, we intend to do some internal promotions, and ultimately we'd only need to hire one entry-level APD 1 ultimately after we make those internal promotions.
Any further questions? Thank you for the explanation. That was good.
Thank you.
Will you call the roll, please?
Yes, sir. Mr. Baumann,
Yes.
Mr. Garcia,
Yes.
Mr. Meppelink,
Yes.
Mr. Holbluer,
Yes.
Mr. DeYoung,
Yes.
Mr. Zylstra,
Yes.
Mr. Kyers,
Yes.
Mr. Dannenberg,
Yes.
Mr. Bergman,
Yes.
and Mr. Fenske.
Yes,
Motion passes.
thank you. Regarding the community mental health personnel request, I make a motion to approve the request from Community Mental Health to add temporary non-benefited crisis call-out clinician, Group T, pay grade 10, position at a total cost not to exceed $40,000 annually.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on the floor. Lynn, would you like to speak to this at all? Pretty please.
Good afternoon. Really, we're hoping this will help us with some staffing issues that we've been having. We are hoping to attract some talent from outside of the county as an employer for some part-time work in our crisis team and our mobile crisis teams.
Would this be the CIT?
It could help with mobile crisis, CIT, crisis intervention too. Mhm.
So will you pair a sheriff, deputy and a mental health worker together?
Yep, that's one of the options. We also are trying to stand up children's mobile crisis, which is doesn't involve law enforcement.
Are they hiring? Not yet.
No,
And what do you think the chances of getting them hired soon?
the chances of hiring people soon,
Yeah,
I can cross my fingers that we'll
Okay.
find some people.
okay. Thank you.
Mhm.
Any further questions, gentlemen? You call the roll, please.
Mr. Holtvluwer,
Yes.
Mr. Zylstra,
Yes.
Mr. Kyers,
Yes.
Mr. DeYoung,
Yes.
Mr. Meppelink,
Yes.
Mr. Baumann,
Yes.
Mr. Bergman,
Yes.
Mr. Dannenberg,
Yes,
Mr. Garcia,
Yes.
and Mr. Fenske.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Regarding the community mental health on-call and third shift pay, I make a motion to approve the request from Community Mental Health to enhance the on-call pay and formalize the CMH third shift premium in the Group T employee manual.
second.
Sensing that you stood up there, you kind of figured
Just in
maybe,
case.
just in
Just
case.
to
You want to give a little summary on this one?
Yes, this is really just simplifying our on-call for some of our teams, our crisis team, and our ACT team. If you look at your packet, the way we paid overtime on-call, on-call previously was pretty complicated. This simplifies it. It gives them a straight way reimbursement for being on call, and then if they get called in, they get time and a half. So we're hoping this will also help us to retain and attract more staff. It's going to be much simpler for us to explain to candidates what that on-call reimbursement looks like.
This is to help find people and fill the positions, right?
Yeah, yes,
Yeah.
it's also, we've always had on call. This is really to simplify how they're paid.
Okay.
Thank you. Will you call the roll,
And
please?
Mr. Kyers,
Yes.
Mr. Holtvluwer,
Yes.
Mr. Garcia,
Yes.
Mr. Dannenberg,
Yes.
Mr. DeYoung,
Yes.
Mr. Zylstra,
Yes.
Mr. Meppelink,
Yes.
Mr. Baumann,
Yes.
Mr. Bergman,
Yes.
and Mr. Fenske.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Regarding the ARPA bucket manager for business stabilization, I make a motion to approve and authorize the board chairperson and clerk register to sign an advisory agreement with Lakeshore Advantage to serve as bucket manager for business stabilization.
Second.
John?
So, Mr. Chair, you actually see three contracts for a highly technical term called bucket manager. But as you know, we have 5 buckets or major categories of spending: our ARPA funds, county initiatives, broadband, business stabilization, human social needs, and affordable housing. The 3 contracts before you are to assign a bucket manager to the business stabilization bucket, which is proposed to be Lakeshore Advantage. And then for the human social needs, which would be Care Ottawa, United Way would be the fiduciary for that. And then Housing Next would be the affordable housing bucket manager. And so you have it in there. We would use a portion of our ARPA funds to pay for those services. They would assist us, as actually they currently are, in terms of developing the criteria, which has already come before you, as to how we would evaluate projects. And they would identify and vet applications for that funding and present that to the Finance Committee and then ultimately to the Board of Commissioners. Our intent is to, assuming that the board approves these contracts, that they would be submitting proposed projects to us in about 90 days, and that the first round of project funding would come before this board before the end of this calendar year. So we're not proposing to spend all 57 million in this first round. Don't know yet how much that'll be. It'll depend in large part on the types of projects that we get. At the same time that we're doing this, Paul Sachs's Department of Strategic Impact, has done a lot of good work to create an application for the bucket managers or applicants to submit applications on, and we've received input from the bucket managers on that. And we're also putting together a public survey that we will be sending out to get some input on what the public feels about these buckets in the priority order, or if there's something else that they think we may want to take a look at. And that survey and that application form should be ready to go by the end of this week. But in terms of this, these contracts are essentially identical except for the name on it and the amount. But essentially they'll be identifying and vetting projects that would be submitted to ultimately to you guys for approval.
Much of this information has come out of the committee work over the last year or so.
Yes, there's been a lot of back and forth, a lot of good discussion, whether it's upon the application form, whether it's on the survey, whether it's on this. That's we've tried to come up with a process that when we look back on it, hopefully most people would agree that we spent these funds in a wise way that tackled some longstanding problems.
Something that will stick around for 10, 15 years.
And that's one of the criteria is, this is to try to hopefully make a transitional or transformational or solve a transformational problem, if you will. And we would be less likely to fund something about, hey, can you fund our payroll for the next 6 months or something like that? Because that's not very transformational.
Is some of the buckets in particular, maybe one that there's some time sensitivity to it?
The affordable housing bucket probably has the most time sensitive nature to it. Ryan Kilpatrick from Housing Next has identified at least a couple different housing projects. I think one's in Holland, one's in Spring Lake, that just based on how far down the road those potential projects are, they may be submitting some requests to use some of these funds to provide gap financing, if you will, or gap funding really for those projects. So if you're asking which ones right now are more time sensitive, probably the affordable housing at this moment.
Okay.
But there are other, as we understand from some of the other proposed bucket managers, they've got some potential projects that will be coming down the pipeline soon as well.
Well, I know that we have a motion on the floor and a second for the first bucket, the business stabilization. So gentlemen, any sort of questions, concerns, inquiries on the first bucket?
Yeah, a couple of questions, John. When we talk about an advisory agreement, is there a stipend behind that for the organizations to be able to?
Yeah, so
by staff who can follow up on those applications?
So when you say a stipend in terms of how much we would pay?
The advisory.
Yeah.
Administrative
Yeah.
costs?
Yes.
So for this first one with Lakeshore Advantage, the county would be paying Lakeshore Advantage $68,688.
In order to manage the applications and
Yep.
the process.
And then the affordable housing would be $100,000 or over a 2-year period of time, or $50,000 per year. And then the human social bucket need would be $45,000.
And I know that we're still not discussing the other two advisory agreements. Is there any conflict, seeing that Greater Ottawa County United Way is doing both the Housing Next and the Social Human Services?
As I understand, United Way is acting as their fiduciary. And so Housing Next is really taking the lead in terms of identifying and vetting projects, as is, I think it's the Holland Zealand Foundation. And I think one other foundation, Paul, is taking the lead on the human social bucket. So I don't think we don't see any conflict with that.
So out of that money that we would be paying these organizations to be the managers, they actually might have to hire people to pay out of that to, or
that would be up to
additional
them.
costs?
That would be up to them if they hire someone or contract with someone, or, obviously incur costs as well. That would be paid out of that. In this case, the $68,000 for Lakeshore Advantage.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions regarding the business stabilization bucket? Seeing none, will you call a roll, please?
Yes, sir. Mr. Garcia,
Yes.
Mr. Bergman,
Yes.
Mr. Zylstra,
Yes.
Mr. Dannenberg,
Yes.
Mr. Meffelin,
Yes.
Mr. Holflor,
Yes.
Mr. Baumann,
Yes.
Mr. Kyers,
Yes.
Mr. DeYoung,
Yes.
and Mr. Fenske.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Regarding the ARPA bucket manager for affordable housing, I make a motion to approve and authorize the board chairperson and clerk register to sign an advisory agreement with Greater Ottawa County United Way Housing Next to serve as bucket manager for affordable housing.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on the floor. Any discussion? Seeing none, will you call a roll, please?
Mr. Dannenberg,
Yes.
Mr. Baumann,
Yes.
Mr. Bergman,
Yes.
Mr. Meffelin,
Yes.
Mr. Garcia,
Yes.
Mr. DeYoung,
Yes.
Mr. Holflor,
Yes.
Mr. Zylstra,
Yes.
Mr. Kyers,
Yes.
and Mr. Fenske.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Regarding the ARPA bucket manager for social human service, I make a motion to approve and authorize the board chairperson and clerk register to sign an advisory agreement with Greater Ottawa County United Way Care Ottawa County to serve as bucket manager for the social human service.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on the floor. Any discussion on this third bucket, human services? Seeing none, will you call a roll, please?
Mr. Kyers,
Yes.
Mr. Holflor,
Yes.
Mr. Meffelin,
Yes.
Mr. Garcia,
Yes.
Mr. Zylstra,
Yes.
Mr. Bergman,
Yes.
Mr. Dannenberg,
Yes.
Mr. DeYoung,
Yes.
Mr. Baumann,
Yes.
and Mr. Fenske.
Yes.
And finally, regarding the fiscal year 2022 budget adjustments, I make a motion to approve the fiscal year 2022 budget adjustments per the attached schedule.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further questions, comments? Seeing none, Mr. Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Yes, sir. Mr. Bergman,
Yes.
Mr. Zylstra,
Yes.
Mr. Kyers,
Yes.
Mr. Garcia,
Yes.
Mr. Holflor,
Yes.
Mr. Baumann,
Yes.
Mr. DeYoung,
Yes.
Mr. Meffelin,
Yes.
Mr. Dannenberg,
Yes.
and Mr. Fenske.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Discussion items, none. Report of the county administrator. Mr. Shea?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a update on the Family Justice Center construction. As you may have seen, they've been doing some tree cutting and lot clearing right now. I recommend you not get too close to the machine that's doing that. Quick work of that. The next week, they should be stump grinding and removing the large wood chip piles from the site so that the
Can people bring like a little bucket to take up some wood chips with them?
Yes, they can. They might bring a little bit bigger bucket. And then after the stump grinding and removal of the wood chip piles, they'll start doing excavation work the weeks of July 11th and 18th. And we're getting pretty close to issuing bid package 2, which is the building envelope, partitions, the mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and technology work. Deputy county administrator position, as I mentioned before, we had 44 applications. We went through some interviews last week on 6 of the candidates. We may bring one back for an in-person interview, and we may also look at continuing to look at some other applications as well, because we want to make sure that we have the best hire right now. We have a panel of 4 of us that are doing the interviews. So I'm really appreciative of the work that they've done and the opinions that they've brought forward on that. So hopefully we'll have more to report on that in the next couple of weeks. This Administrator's Digest just went out a couple days ago, so you should have received that by now. And again, we're trying to maintain a every 2-week schedule with that as well. We also, as I mentioned, we've resumed our brown bag lunches. So we've had one, I'm losing track of time a little bit, but at Grand Haven Courthouse last week, we had Holland District Court yesterday, I believe. And I think we might have another one this week as well. So we'll continue to do that. And I'm continuing to meet with our local units of government, met with Crockery Township again, I think it was last week, and coming up, I believe is Georgetown and Hudsonville as well. And that is it.
Thank you, Mr. Shea. General information, comments, meetings attended. Mr. Zast.
Yes, a quick question, John, on the 3 bucket managers, are we gonna put out contact info for those bucket managers so folks can reach out to them?
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay, maybe just a release of some sort, so folks have asked me like, how do I reach out to my bucket manager, and it'd be great to have a phone number.
Okay.
Sure.
And also the application form too that's going out may have that, and also I believe it has that, but if not, we can make sure it's on there as well.
Thank you.
John, can we do a press release on that also? That becomes even more aware of the public. Thank you.
We can do that.
Commissioner Dion.
Thank you. This is a little bit in advance, but I want you to kind of save the date for July 4. I want to invite the commissioners, the employees, the staff, the people that are watching us online to our annual Allendale 4th of July parade. And it's going to be way more than a parade this year. We've worked together in unity with the Chamber of Commerce and the Township Board for our Grand Marshal this year. And our Grand Marshal will be all of our healthcare workers in West Michigan who want to come to Allendale and to lead the parade. It's something that I don't know if anybody has done that at all. We all know we've come through a crisis the last 2 years. Our healthcare workers have just really led the charge to make sure that people got through this the best they can. So as a community, we decided to have the healthcare workers, whether you're a brain surgeon, whether you're washing windows or anything in between, you're welcome to Allendale on Monday morning at 10 o'clock at Oakwood Elementary School right off Pierce Street. And you will be leading the parade. You'll have 10,000 people there thanking you for your services to West Michigan to get our people through the worst pandemic we ever had. So Monday morning, 10 o'clock, if you got some time, come out there and honor our healthcare workers.
Excellent. Anything from Mac, Mr. President?
No, really not much right now. It's pretty quiet. They're just doing their audits, working, but I haven't heard much of a change in what's going on there. So thank you, Matt.
Just something to get on your calendar. The Farm Bureau's annual picnic will be at Drenth Community Grove Park on July the 21st. So that's always kind of a fun event to, support the Farm Bureau and our farmers and such. So Commissioner Zalstra?
Yeah, I just want to also point out an event coming up, July 9th is the Loud Fiesta. I think that's the first time it's been in the Civic Center the last 4 years, so that's really exciting. I did get an email this morning from Johnny Rodriguez, who has been here. They do need a total of 28, they have 28 spots for volunteers, so if folks want to get involved in that, reach out to Johnny or myself and put you in contact. I think it's great that it's coming back to the Civic Center, and it'll be a great event, so.
Thank you. Commissioner Bergman?
Last week I attended the brown bag lunch with John and several employees. It was interesting listening to the comments that a lot of the employees had, the concerns that they had about the upcoming election, as well as some of the concerns about what happened with Juneteenth, with the courts and the payroll and those kinds of things. So John did a very good job of explaining what happened and how we'll look at those kinds of things in the future. Also, I'm actually looking forward to those meetings in November when we get those requests for ARPA funds. We started this process. I remember when Al Vanderberg came to me to talk about, hey, Roger, we need to put together this committee. And he came up with this concept of this committee. And we were one of only two, I think, in the state of Michigan that have similar committees of counties. The rest of them did it differently, but we're similar to, I don't remember, was one of the ones in the, was it Oakland County or Livingston? One of those counties. Anyway, where we are today, it was a lot of work. And we had a lot of volunteers that put a lot of hours in. And Paul Sachs really always pulled us together and did a great job, and now John's doing it. And I just commend the work. And when I say I'm looking forward to November, seeing those projects that are coming our way, the beginning of that, I think it's going to be a great opportunity for us as a board to show what we can do and when we work together and with the community as well. And then also to piggyback on what you said, I know you're inviting all these people to your 4th of July parade, but I will invite people to Phil and I. We're going to be featured in this parade in Ferrisburg. And if you can't make Allendale, come to Ferrisburg because it's a great parade also. Right, Phil?
Exactly.
And we even have
I just
breakfast.
don't want to put Greg down.
Yeah, we don't want to put Greg down. We even have breakfast before. Anyway, that's all I have.
Pretty good. All right, great. Thank you. Anything else, gentlemen? Seeing none, this is our second opportunity for public comment. Do we have anybody in the audience or online that wishes to address the board?
No one currently online, Mr. Chair.
No, currently on. Okay. And we'll close the public comment part and we'll stand adjourned.
Thank you.